Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Now, today's video, I'm going to show you how to make what I call the Fuzzy Top Beanie. The beanie itself is super easy to stitch up. We make the band, and the stitches are rows of half double crochet V stitches. Makes a beautiful texture. We add a fun button. You can choose any button of choice, wooden buttons, plastic buttons, homemade buttons, whatever you want to use. And then I'm also going to show you how to make this big fuzzy top pom-pom to add to your hat. That's why we call it Fuzzy Top Beanie. Now this crochet beanie will fit a 22 to 24 inch head because it's super stretchy. I love this. It's easy to make. I think you're going to like it too. Easy to make pom-pom, easy to make hat. Now you can find the crochet pattern on my blog with lots of pictures, and I'll put that blog link with the pattern down in the notes underneath this video. To make the Fuzzy Top Beanie, we're using this yarn here for the beanie itself. This is Downton Abbey yarn collection called Matthew, and this is by Premier Yarns. It is a medium weight number 4 yarn, and it is a combination of acrylic and wool. But you can use any medium weight number 4 yarn for this project. And you're going to need about a skein, and this one has 230 yards or 3.5 ounces. All right, so we didn't use the whole thing. Probably about 3 ounces would be enough. And then at the end of the video, after I show you how to make the beanie itself, I'm going to show you how to make a fun pom-pom. Now you can use a pre-made pom-pom like this. This one I just purchased at Hobby Lobby a few months back. I think it would look really nice on there. But I'm going to show you how to make a fuzzy pom-pom using the faux fur yarn. And there's several kinds of yarn. This one is called mink for the moment. I like it with this one. It's a little bit lighter in color. And you can see it's just strips of the faux fur cut into measurements of yarn. And you'll probably only need about half an ounce of this. You can go for faux. It works also. Same thing. Strips of faux fur. This one's by Lion Brand. And then this is another one by Yarn Bee. It's a big thick one. And I'm saving this one for another project that I have going on. And I'm going to use that for trim and pom-pom on another project. But I just wanted you to see there are lots of different shades of the yarn. There are lots of different brands. But basically, it's any kind of a faux fur that is cut into long strips. And I'm gonna show you how to make a really simple fuzzy pom-pom with no cutting of the yarns. All right, now we also added a fun button. I added this one, but you can get a wooden button. This is one that I made out of polymer clay. It's really pretty. Or you can use a couple of smaller buttons. The button is just decorative. You can add it or you can leave it off. It's up to you. Now we're going to be crocheting today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in those ends, and then of course a good pair of scissors. We're going to be starting with the band of the hat. We'll join the band together and then work up the hat. It's a really simple pattern, and I think you're really going to enjoy making this. So we're going to begin with our slip knot. And we're going to chain 9 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now we're going to do a single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and then in each of those chains across. and chain 1. So for row 1, we chain 9. We began in the second chain from the hook and stitched 1 single crochet in each, so we have 8 single crochets. Now for row 2, we're going to be stitching in the back loops only. So we're going to turn our work, and you'll notice on the top of these two are 2 loops. There's a loop here that's your front loop, and a loop along here that's your back loop. And so we're going to be stitching 1 single crochet in each of the back loops across. Our chain 1 did not count as a stitch, so we started right in that first single crochet, and we're stitching 1 single crochet in each of those 8 single crochets in the back loops only, and chain 1. Now you'll know that you did it correctly if you have this little line right here. Those are the front loops that we didn't stitch in. And then when you look on the back, it has an indentation because that's where we stitched in the back loops. And so for row 2, we have 8 single crochets stitched in the back loop only. Now we're going to do row 3. We chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and we're going to repeat what we did on row 2. We're going to go right in that first single crochet and stitch a single crochet in the back loop only. And we'll do this all the way across. Again, 1 single crochet in each of those 8 single crochets, stitching in the back loops only. And chain 1. And again, you'll notice there's that ridge of stitches that we didn't stitch in that are our front loops, and then when you turn it over, you have that indentation right there. All right, let's do row 4. We've chained 1, we're going to turn our work, and again we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in each of the back loops only, working all the way across, 1 in each of those 8 single crochets. And chain 1. And you can see how it works. You're going to have ridges and indentations on the front and on the back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat row 3 like we did on row 4, which is chain 1, 1 single crochet in each of our 8 single crochets, stitching in the back loop only. And we're going to repeat this for 57 more rows, and that's going to give us a total of 61 rows for our hat band. I repeated 1 single crochet in each of those 8 single crochets across, chain 1, turn, and again we stitched in the back loop only on every row. And see how stretchy that band is for our hat? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the 2 ends together to form our hat band. And we're going to go through the first stitch on this side and the first stitch on this side and stitch a single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There we go. And now we're going to chain 3. And I want you to see how that looks. By stitching that row of single crochet there, we added another row, and it blends right in with our other rows where we had our ridges and indentations. So now that we formed the band of our hat, we're going to double crochet evenly around the top of our hat. Now our chain 3 counts as 1, and what you want to do is try not to go in the holes in between like this. You want to go through in the end of that stitch and stitch a double crochet, and then stitch 1 in the top of that ridge. And by stitching in the side of the stitch and stitching in the top of that ridge, you get a nice even row of double crochets and not holes. Let me show you. If you go in like between, you end up with a hole there. And we don't want those holes on our hat. All right? And so we're going to stitch an even row of double crochets around the top edge of our hat band. And we'll do this all the way around and join back to our chain 3. I have evenly double crocheted all the way around the top of my hat band. Now you need to count this chain 3 as 1 double crochet, and you need to make sure you have 63 double crochets around. We're going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 1. All right, you need to have 63 double crochets for the pattern of the top part of the hat to work. Doesn't that hat band look nice though? I really like it. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to be stitching what's called half double crochet V stitches. Our chain 1 does not count as a stitch here, and so we're going to go in this first double crochet and stitch a half double crochet. We're going to chain 1 and then stitch another half double crochet in that same double crochet. That is the half double crochet V stitch we're using for this pattern. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and stitch another half double crochet V stitch in this stitch. Half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet. Skip 2 double crochets and stitch a half double crochet V stitch in the next stitch. And we'll repeat this all the way around our hat band. Skip 2 half double crochet V stitch in the next stitch. There we go. And so what we're doing is stitching a half double crochet V stitch, skip 2, half double crochet V stitch, skip 2, and we're working this all the way around, and then we'll join back to our first half double crochet, not the chain 1, but the half double crochet. Here's my last half double crochet V stitch. We're going to skip those last 2 stitches. We're going to join to the half double crochet with a slip stitch, and then slip stitch in the chain 1 space and chain 1. All right, now this is row 64 that we just stitched, and on row 64 you should have 21 half double crochet V stitches, and that's how many you'll have for the remainder of the hat. On each row you'll have 21 half double crochet V stitches. All right, now for row 65 we have slip stitched in that half double crochet and then slip stitched in the chain 1 space. So now we're going to stitch in this chain 1 space a half double crochet V-stitch, which is half double crochet, chain 1, and half double crochet in that chain 1 space. Then we'll go to the next chain 1 space and stitch a half double crochet, V-stitch, half double crochet. And we'll do this in each one of those chain 1 spaces in the center of our half double crochet V-stitches. So we're stitching our half double crochet V-stitches in our half double crochet V-stitches. Doesn't that make a beautiful texture? I just love that. It has a classy look to it to me. And this is a classy hat. Oops. No chain 1s in between, just a half double crochet V-stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces of our half double crochet V-stitches. We'll repeat this all the way around and again join back to our first half double crochet. I completed row 65 stitching a half double crochet V-stitch in the chain 1 spaces of each of my half double crochet V-stitches. I really love the texture that this particular stitch makes. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat row 65 for 11 more rows. You'll join to the half double crochet with a slip stitch in the chain 1 space and chain 1, and then you'll stitch a half double crochet V-stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces around and join and repeat. And so you're going to repeat row 65 for 11 more rows. So I repeated row 65 11 more times, and you can see those V-stitches. Isn't that pretty? I just love the way that that looks. All right, so we joined to our V-stitch and we slip stitch, which I did not do yet, and chain 1 in that first V-stitch. And we're going to do it a little bit different on this row. This last row we're going to do in order to gather the top of our hat closed. And so what we're going to do is we're going to half double crochet in that chain 1 space and chain 1. Now we're going to move to the next chain 1 space, half double crochet, chain 1. And we're going to do this all the way around, and you'll notice that it will start to bring in the top of your hat. And this is the row that we're going to be gathering the top of our hat closed. So instead of doing a half double crochet V-stitch in each of our chain 1 spaces, we're stitching just a half double crochet and chain 1. And that's going to pull that in, and then we're going to use this row to gather our hat closed. And so we'll just repeat this around and join back to that first half double crochet. I completed this row, half double crochet, chain 1 in each of the chain 1 spaces of our half double crochet V-stitches. I joined back to that first half double crochet. I cut my yarn, leaving about a 14 to 16 inch tail of yarn. And now we're going to just tie that off, and we're going to turn our hat wrong side out. All right, we're going to grab our needle and we're going to thread on this right here. And you could probably do this with your crochet hook because we have such nice big open holes, but I want to use my needle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in each of the half double crochet stitches and gather that up. And the reason I did one half double crochet instead of the V-stitch in each of the chain 1 spaces is it gives us less bulk in there in order to gather our hat closed. if we would have done the half double crochets, it probably still would have been just fine, but it gives us less bulk on this row where we want to gather it up than if we would have done the whole V stitches of the half double crochets. All right, so I'm back around where I started, and we're going to pull that securely. And I like to look, make sure I've got everything the way I need it, because this is the underside of the hat, remember. Okay, and then I'm going to pull like that, and I'm going to go all the way across those stitches. And we'll do that a few times. And we're only going through the tops of these stitches, not to show through on the other side. Just going back and forth. Okay, now before I cut that off, I'm going to turn it back over and see how it looks on this side. See how that looks? It looks good. I like that. Looks really nice. All right, so then I'm going to come back over here. Just do a few more stitches just to make sure everything is how I want it. Not too bumpy. Okay, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go in like this. I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to have a loop over here and a string over here. I'm going to give it a little extra pull, and I'm going to tie those in a knot. And when I close up the inside of a hat, I really want it to stay put. And so I do those 2 knots, and then I do this style. And then I'm going to go around one more time, because I just do not want the top of my hat opening up. Alrighty, and clip. Now we'll turn the hat back over, and we've got an adorable hat. Isn't that adorable? So now this hat needs a pom-pom. But before we do the pom-pom, I'm going to show you how to quickly sew on a fun button, since we're got our needle out and everything. And I decided I wanted to use this flowery button because it's a really strong masculine type yarn, and I just wanted to add some flowers for the girls. But if you're making this for a gentleman, you could always use a wooden button or maybe a couple of wooden buttons. And of course I've got this flower one that I made. So there's lots of options of buttons, and again, this decorative, you do what you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to put my button right on the edge on this double crochet row like this. Okay, so I'm going to do that loop that I do. I'm going to take my hook and pull that string to the underside because we're going to be tying it off under there. All right, now I'm going to grab my button. It just has 2 buttonholes, which is fine since it's decorative, but we do want to make sure when we sew a button on that we're going through stitches and not holes, because it won't be secure if we go through the holes. The holes between the stitches I'm talking about. You want to go in the stitches themselves. Alrighty, make sure I get in a stitch on this side as well. There we go. And we'll just turn this up, and we're going to do similar knot that we did when we put that or closed up our hat at the end there. We're going to do a couple of knots like this, and then that other type knot that's, I call it a twist knot. I know it has a technical term and people have told me what it is. I can't remember. There we go. So now it has a cute little button, and I love that button. Now I'm going to show you how to make a easy faux fur pom-pom for your hat. Now I'm using this for the moment mink yarn bead. That's a Hobby Lobby yarn. And so what you're going to need to do is cut off a piece of string or a string of yarn about 16 inches long. That's the same yarn as your hat. And then you're going to use your faux fur yarn. We're going to take our 2 fingers or 3, depending on how big you want your pom-pom. I'm going to go ahead and use 3 because I want it to be a little bit bigger. And we're just going to wrap this around our fingers a whole bunch of times, 25 or 30 times. Once we've wrapped it as many times as we want, we're going to cut that. And make sure you've got your fingers through it because you're going to put this string through that hole in the center. I just sort of grip it with those 2 fingers and pull it through. All right, so now I'm just going to tie a nice tight knot in the top. You see I'm tying quite a few knots. I am going to tie that knot that I like to use and get it as close as I can down on top of those other knots. All right, now this looks like a pretty good pom-pom. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to attach it to the hat. All right, so we're going to take our crochet hook, grab one of those strands, and then we'll go on the other side here and grab the other strand. All right, go inside and find those strands. Okay, I lost the other one, so we'll go back up and find it. There it is. All right, now, one of the things I get all the time is how do you take these off if you want to wash the hat? And so what I do, we want it to stay put, and so I'll just do a little knot like this, and then I'll just tie a bow. Okay, that's going to stay up inside the hat, and the pom-pom's going to be on top. And then you can take that pom-pom off to wash it. But what we want to do now is we want to sort of spread this out and make it kind of go different directions so that it's a bigger, fluffier pom-pom. And the amount of times you move the loops make it even bigger. Now, we do not cut these loops. If you cut them, you're going to have all kind of fray and it's going to look unnatural, unpretty, like a pom-pom's natural, but you know what I mean. It's not going to look near as pretty, and you just fluff it out as much as you want to, and it makes a really, really pretty pom-pom. Now, if you get a piece like this that's just hanging there, go ahead and cut it off. It's not going to matter. The strings are going to hold it in place, and then when you want to wash your hat, you just come under here, untie that bow, and toss the hat in the wash machine. I pretty much try to spot wash mine though. I don't wash them in the wash machine that often unless I spill coffee on them or something. So this is our Fuzzy Top Beanie. Super easy hat to stitch up and super easy fuzzy pom-pom to make and add.